Hi, Brian here from Downpour Fellowship, and today we're going to be looking at John chapter 6, where Jesus gives his first I am statement, that he's the bread of life. And when you think of bread, I don't know if you've ever had homemade bread at home, but the smell just permeates the house, and you can't just eat one. You have to eat till you're stuffed, or probably beyond that. But kind of in our culture, we see bread as more of an option. Whereas here in the Bible times, it was actual staple. Sometimes that's all they had for their meal was bread. So as Jesus makes this statement, this makes it so much stronger. Now, I'd recommend reading chapter 6 of John to get the full context, because I hate just jumping in the center. But to get you up to speed, Jesus feeds the 5,000 with 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. The crowds were going to make Jesus their king. Jesus withdrew from them. The disciples got on their boat, headed across the sea, and Jesus ends up walking on the water to them later. They get to the other side, and the crowds followed him around, and they wanted more physical food. And Jesus tells them that they should be seeking spiritual food that comes down from God and gives eternal life. Now, the crowd also want to know what type of work they should do, to get this eternal life. And Jesus said to them, "This is the work of God, that you believe in him whom he has sent," there in verse 29. So the only work they had to do was believe. And, looking at the context, I think they wanted more. They wanted to do something. And the crowds begin to boast how their fathers ate the manna that Moses provided. And Jesus corrects them and reminding him that it was his father that provided that manna, there in verse 32. The true bread is the bread that comes down from heaven. Jesus now makes his first I am statement, verse 35. Jesus said to them, "I am the bread of life. He who comes to me will not hunger. He who believes in me will never thirst." So in the way Jesus said it, he said it very strong. He uses it's called the ume, kind of a double negative. He says, "I'm the bread of life. He who comes to me will not never ever hunger. And he who believes in me will not ever, ever thirst again." So with physical bread, you're only satisfied momentarily. Just like these crowds, they ate, they wanted more, they came around to get more of it. And while the bread that Jesus supplies lasts forever. So if you put your trust, hope, faith, security in anything other than Jesus Christ, you will feel empty and unsatisfied. There at verse 37, "All that the Father gives me will come to me, and the one who comes to me I will certainly not cast out." He uses that language again. No, not ever cast out. He's not going to throw you out. If your only work you do is believing on Jesus Christ and in his finished work on the cross, he will never ever throw you out. So it's a real strong eternal security verse there. Verse 39, I lose nothing. Jesus doesn't cause destruction of a person. Jesus is the bread that sustains, gives you eternal life, and you will not be forgotten about or lost in the shuffle of life. Jesus calls himself the bread of life because Jesus was claiming to come down from heaven, just like the manna came down from heaven. Also, Jesus was clearly claiming to have a unique relationship with God the Father. And he claimed attributes of God about raising people up on the last day, there in verse 40. And, there in Exodus chapter 3, God said to Moses, "I am who I am." And he said, "Thus you shall say to the sons of Israel, I am has sent me to you." So when Jesus made this I am statement, the Jews understood what Jesus was claiming. He was claiming to have a unique relationship with God the Father, plus he also possessed attributes that only God has. So they understood that he was calling himself God. So this is a clear verse showing Jesus is God. So at the feeding of the 5,000, Jesus uses this opportunity to show he has the power to create bread that can sustain the physical body. But more importantly, he has the lasting bread that comes down from heaven, which gives eternal life. So this bread is essential to life. So the only access to God is through believing in Jesus' finished work on the cross. By doing this, you will receive eternal life. The only work you have to do is believe. Christ is a spiritual food that nourishes the soul, like regular food is for the physical body. Jesus is the only bread that can satisfy your soul. Whenever you try to satisfy your soul with anything except Jesus Christ, it will leave you empty and unsatisfied. And especially with all the fear and uncertainty that's going on here in our nation and the world. So hopefully you find Jesus to fully sustain and satisfy your soul. Thanks for watching.